I just wanted to welcome you all here to our candidate forum for the contested races here in town this year. There are two contested races, for those of you who are unaware, Board of Health and Select Board. So candidates are here for those contested races. One candidate is here for the Board of Health, Elaine Byrne. There are three candidates here for Select Board. Alicia Greco, Jack Rybicki, Jeff Walker. Our moderator today is Dave Rogers. He is the editor of the Newburyport Daily News. Timekeeper is our IT director, John. A couple of housekeeping items, if I can just go over before we start. First, I'd ask everybody to silence their cell phones, just so there's no interruptions for the candidates when they're speaking. This event is being recorded. It will be available on the town's YouTube page as well as local cable access Channel 9 if anyone wants to view it again, for those who couldn't attend. For those in attendance, restrooms are across the hall if you need that. Just a reminder, the town election is on Tuesday, May 14th. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Two precincts. Precinct 1 is the Firefighters Memorial Hall. Precinct 2 is the library. If you do not know your precinct, please feel free to reach out to the town clerk and she can help you with that. Other than that, I will turn things over to Dave.
Well, good morning and welcome. Thank you for everyone for showing up. As she said, my name is Dave Rogers of the Daily News in Newburyport, and it's my pleasure to be here with you guys today. Today's forum is co-sponsored by the Newbury Council on Aging, and it's your chance to get a better acquainted with the candidates running for Select Board and Board of Health before the May 14th general election. There are three candidates for the two seats available for Select Board. Incumbents are Alicia Greco and Jeff Walker. Jack Rybicki is the lone challenger. Board of Health incumbent Elaine Byrne, who is here with us today, is seeking another term. Her opponent, Linda Murray, could not be here today. The first 15 minutes will focus on the Board of Health, and Ms. Byrne and I will have a free-flowing conversation where I simply ask her questions about her role and why she believes she deserves another term. There are no time limits here, just a conversation. The remaining hour will focus on the Select Board race. Candidates will have a minute each for opening statements and another minute for closing statements. In between, I will ask questions submitted by readers or crafted by me. Some of the questions will be directed towards individuals, some towards more than one candidate. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond. If another candidate is mentioned by name, that person will have 60 seconds to respond. I may ask follow-up questions to keep a conversation going, and candidates will have 60 seconds to answer those follow-up questions. Candidates will also have a chance to ask their opponents questions as well. Candidates will have a minute to respond to those. And again, I may ask follow-up questions to keep the conversation going. I'm asking candidates to adhere to time limits to keep the forum as fair as possible. I ask all those in attendance to hold their applause until the end. Until right now, if you guys want to applaud right now for being here and for these candidates for showing up, that'd be great. So, I guess I'm just really going to keep this very light. Okay. And so how long have you been on the Board of Health?
Since its inception, which I believe is in 2002.
Okay, 2002. So, if you had to pick two or three biggest challenges you've had on the board, could you name them, please, and just explain that a little bit?
Well, I think the biggest challenge was in the very beginning. We were monitored by the Department of Environmental Affairs. Every meeting we had somebody from that department actually attend our meeting. All three members, I don't know if everybody here was aware of that, but every single meeting, there was somebody there watching everything we did. All three members had to sign every document. Copies of everything had to be sent to the department. They monitored. I don't know if everybody was aware of why we had to have a Board of Health. We were under an order from the state. We were in such bad shape. We had to have a Board of Health. So I don't think a lot of the townspeople were aware of the situation in the town at the time. There was a consent order. So we came, I think that went on for about 3 years. Every single thing we did was literally monitored. So that was hard in the beginning. So we, all three of us had to sign everything that was done. Every plan, every decision, everything. And they had to see everything we did.
Right.
And then after a while, they kind of, they saw that we were on the up and up. It was also hard trying to get people to understand what we were doing. And eventually, I think people came around and they sort of trusted us. And it was a learning process for us as well, because we had to convince people what we were doing was for the benefit of the town. So, and then the transfer station, that was the second thing.
Number two, okay.
Yeah, that was number two. Convincing people why we would have a transfer station, why it was too expensive to have door-to-door pickup, and especially the people on Plum Island, and I live on Plum Island. They were so used to having trash pickup in the summertime. Oh, why can't we have trash pickup? Oh, we always had trash pickup, blah, 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 blah. That went on and on and on. And people wanted to have that. They were spoiled by that. And they wanted to have that. And we had to explain to them that that was a very expensive situation. We couldn't afford it. And they just didn't understand it. So finally, we told them, and we did we went all around different towns and everything, visiting other towns, checking with other towns ourselves. And I have friends that were, because I've worked in other towns as well. Before I became an attorney, I was an assessor. I used to work for the Department of Revenue, so I had a lot of contacts with different towns. So I went around and I visited myself personally and asked all these people what did they do in similar situations. So I had a friend in Middleton who ran a transfer station and what they did and how they transferred over to the use of a transfer station and what were some of the ins and outs of it. And Steve Ram did the same thing. And so that's how we came around, and we had to present that to the town, and I think that helped.
What about COVID? That must have been a challenge too.
That was, and we were lucky that we had the health agent that we have. Deborah Rogers, I think she's the biggest asset we had, because she's so knowledgeable and so hardworking, and she's got a couple of accommodations from the state, and even Bruce Tarr physically has come in and given her commendation. So I think we've been very, very lucky that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you believe there's been any kind of government overreach in terms of restrictions back when this all happened a few years ago? I mean,
You mean COVID?
Yeah. Did you have an opinion on that?
I don't know how to answer that. It was a very frightening thing, but I'm old enough, I hate to admit my age, but I am old enough to remember the stories about the flu epidemic of 1918. And my husband was his mother was orphaned as a result of that flu epidemic. So, they took much more drastic measures during that epidemic. So I don't know, would people today, would they stand for what happened in 1918? They took much more drastic measures in 1918. Everybody had to wear a mask and nobody complained about it. And then I lived through the polio epidemic, and I just knew as a kid, seeing all those pictures of kids in those iron lungs, that there's no way I wanted to be an iron lung. And I know very well that most parents didn't want their kids in an iron lung. So I don't think they would have fought someone saying you had to have your kid get vaccinated for polio. So why were people now complaining about getting their kids vaccinated? I don't know, I don't get it. I don't get
Right.
this whole thing about the vaccines,
Right.
you know?
Um,
I
how,
don't get that.
yeah, how involved do you get personally in health matters in town? I mean, do you, like rodenticides, for example, is that something that you were, what was your role in that? Do you have any role in that at all? I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yes, we do.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's something that I really am concerned about. Because you don't wanna have your pets getting in there. Certainly don't wanna have a child getting into that. You don't want the more I think about it, I don't want my wild bird of prey, no matter how dangerous I might think that bird is, I don't want him dying because he's eating some mouse that was poisoned by
Right.
that.
Right.
That's pretty horrifying.
Right. So going forward, what are some of the bigger challenges? Like if, say, you get elected to another term, like what are some of the challenges that you expect coming on the horizon, if any?
Health issues, right now, I'm kind of concerned about which I'm planning on talking to our health agent about. We now have we have the Plum Island substation, or whatever we wanna call it, that's gonna be opened up. Who's gonna take care of it? Who's gonna maintain it and make sure that it's clean?
Do you mean the bathrooms or the
Yeah,
subs?
the
Okay, okay,
bathrooms.
just being clear.
Who's gonna take care of it? Who's gonna pay for it? Who's, is there somebody gonna be there and watch out for it? Is it gonna be locked at night? Are there gonna be people lurking around in there at night?
Right.
I'm kinda concerned about it,
Okay.
you know?
So, I mean, in the few minutes we have left, just talk about yourself a little more. Like how, we mentioned how long you've been on the board, but, like, why should folks vote for you?
Because I'm the best qualified
Well,
person.
can you go a little more into that? That's,
I mean, it's a given.
I mean, hey, maybe you may be, but I don't know, and I don't know if a lot of voters know.
Well,
I don't even recognize
let me
my-
tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an educated person. I started out, I got married when I was 17 years old. I did not finish high school. I went back and I got a GED. From the GED, I worked, and then I went to college when my kids, I started college when my son went to college and my daughter went to college the same year. And I took extra classes. So my son and I started school the first year, and at the end of that semester, I was a third-year college student, and he was going into his second year. So I'll give you an example of what was going on. So I ended up, I went to work for the Department of Revenue, and from the Department of Revenue, I decided that it worked for different assessors. I actually was the assistant assessor for the town of Newbury for a while. And then I had so many people coming in, I was the assessor also for the town of Saugus. I had people coming in and asking me questions that I realized I knew more than they did. So I said, I think I should go to law school. So I went to law school. And so now I'm an attorney. I also work for the Department of Revenue. I don't know if I mentioned that. So I'm an attorney, and I do a lot of other things. I don't intend on quitting anytime soon. I'm 82 years old, in case you haven't heard that part. So I'm probably older than Biden, but I think. But, and this is probably the first year I've actually told people how old I am, but you're gonna find out anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I feel I've got a lot of knowledge, and I was just brought up with a family that I was taught that you're supposed to share what you have. It's your duty. It's your obligation to give back to your community, to your family, and to your country. So that's why I'm here. And I have this knowledge, so why not? Why not give back to my community? My kids are grown. I'm raising a granddaughter, but that's part of the program. So that's why I'm here.
That's great. I really appreciate you coming by and letting me grill you for a few minutes. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. There will be 4 more forums next week, just FYI.
Oh, wow.
Just kidding.
As long as I don't have to be in them. Thank you.
All right.
Can I
All right.
ask one question?
Sure.
I took the morning off from work. Can I go to work now?
Do you want me to write you a note for your boss or something?
No. No, I don't think I need a
right.
note.
Well, we're going to move on to the select board now, and each candidate will have, how much did I say? 1 minute for opening statements, thank you. Alphabetically, so Alicia, you want to go first?
Sure.
All right.
Good morning. My name is Alicia Greco, and I would like to thank the Newbury Council on Aging and the Daily News for hosting this event and inviting us here this morning. I am running for re-election to the Select Board because I care about our community. I have been serving the town and its schools in different capacities for over 20 years. I sat on both the middle and high school councils. I served as a PTA president. I have served on the Triton District Communications Committee since its inception, and I have a deep understanding of the school budgeting process. I helped launch both the Newbury Government Channel and the Education Channel. In 2015, I was elected to the Select Board, and I currently serve as the chair. In 2022, I was appointed to the MMA's Fiscal Policy Committee, and it's there where I actively lobby for increased state funding for both Triton and Newbury. I have an accounting degree from Bentley College. I have run my own business. I am presently employed as an administrator at a large multinational corporation. I am married with 2 daughters who both attended NES and graduated from Triton. I live in Byfield with my husband, Gary.
Perfect.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, Jack, your turn.
Good morning. If you don't mind, I'll stand. I consider myself to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And if you all remember that, that's the scouting oath. I took that when I was 10 years old, and I believe in that to this day. I bring that to the table. I wake up with that. I couch that with the 10 Commandments, and I think I got a pretty good basis for being human. I present myself to you all tonight because I want to help. I feel that there's room for improvement always in all our lives. And I think it takes input from the outside to become reflective inside. And I believe that given the opportunity, I'll bring your voice to the table, and together we can come to mutually agreed to solutions based on good decision-making by proper and very respectful, moderated, open debate. I think we need to return to it. Thank you.
All right, Jeff, you can stand up too if you want, or you can sit down, if you like.
I had 2 Eagle Scouts, so I felt I was back at the breakfast table. My wife is here. I'd like to thank the Council on Aging and Dave for you coming today, for us to be, yes. In 2001, I was elected to the Planning Board and also a liaison to the Concom. In 2009, I was elected to the Select Board. So I've been around for a while, and I've seen a lot of complications. We had tremendous fiscal complications in our town when I was first elected. We had equipment problems, we had infrastructure problems, we were going nowhere fast, we couldn't pay our bills. So through good management and collaboration, we were able to climb out of that hole, and I must say now, we are tremendously well managed. We are AAA bond rated, and we have one of the lowest tax rates around. And it is absolutely due to cooperation of our boards and committees, volunteers, town administrators, select board, and I'd like to thank the community for helping also. So thank you very much for coming today.
So Jeff, you kind of touched upon the first question I was going to ask you. How do you rate Tracy Blaze's performance and leadership as a Newbury Town Administrator? And do you think it made sense to hire an assistant?
This will be, the first part's gonna be easy because
Well, you just said it, but yes.
I can remember it was Joe Story and I that went to West Newbury and first interviewed her, and then she came to our town and was very, very, just did a tremendous job, as most people know. For us to get to where we are now from where we came is extraordinary. Tracy's contract, I believe, is over in a year or so. Dave, do you know if she's gonna stay?
Oh, I don't know. She's pretty.
I don't know if she's gonna stay either. It depends on how she's treated and everything else. So, having someone in the capacity that's a little higher on than maybe just a person that's gonna push papers and really gets to understand where the town is headed and how to handle things is probably good planning, and I think Tracy's known for that.
So, and but second part of
That
my question,
answers, I believe,
the first one.
no, that answers
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that last bit.
the good planning that she put in place by hiring Dave Fields is to have someone if she decides to go.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
So,
Anybody want to respond to that?
I agree.
Jack, do you want to say anything, or you good?
I say that we do well, but I think there's always room for improvement. I think where we've been was a long journey, and where we're going will be a long journey. And I think we have to do it together, and I think that bottom-up guidance then led, as opposed to top-down leadership, force-fed, isn't necessarily the way we need to do it. I think she's infinitely capable of doing all that she's directed to and all that she's capable of. And if I'm elected, I would use every resource, every person, every asset we have to make our town better. And if Tracy's here, then she will be one of those assets. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Oh, you want to say something? Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. I don't understand what Mr. Rybicki means, and I've heard him say this a couple times, and I'd like him to clarify, if possible, what this bottom-up versus force-fed. Can you explain that to me, please?
What I mean by that, everybody, is up until 2023, all meetings were run with open, moderated discussion, interactive repartee between the citizens and the discipline at hand. They stopped that ultimately for 9 months until I fought hard to get them to accept some kind of repartee, which came in the form of oral communications. Right now, the oral communications provision, which is read in front of every single committee and board that sits, says that you can talk to them for 3 minutes. They will not address you, and it's up to them whether or not your subject appears on the next board or committee agenda. I don't think that's fair. I think if you took the time to come to a meeting, then your concern should be heard in that moment. And that you came to ask the board at hand a question, and you took the time out of your busy day. The idea that I would sit up here and just listen to you and say, thanks for coming, I'll think about putting it on in 2 weeks or a month is foreign to me, and it won't happen here. Thank you.
You want to say something else? I think it's the last word on this one.
Well, I need to clarify that,
Well,
because.
that's just the last word, okay?
That's fine. What Mr. Rybicki suggests is wholly in violation of the open meeting law. The Attorney General's office doesn't allow that type of dialogue. And let me explain to the public as to why that happens. We are the top decision-making body in the town. We post agendas with items specifically on there. And I believe the Finance Committee has recently, when we were going through the warrant, added comment for public discussion, not only at the top of the agenda, but after each warrant article. And no one attended. No public showed up. Nobody came, which is fine. They had an opportunity. Think about this. If the select board has an agenda and we allow open dialogue and allow the public to come in and speak on any subject that they want, the townspeople will never know what's been discussed. They'll never know how the board acted. It's fundamentally wrong to democracy, and that's why it's not allowed in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Jack, I wanna move on, okay? We got a lot of questions. I think you said that last week though, right? At the Republican, right, you said the same exact thing.
Yeah,
Right.
it's the truth.
All right.
I don't believe so, Dave, and I think I
Hold on,
should
hold
have
on,
the
Jack,
floor on
Jack,
that.
Jack, no, Jack, nope. This is my show. Thank
She
you.
got 2 shots,
Jack,
Dave.
stop. So Alicia, I have a question for you.
Yes.
There are many who believe that you and Mr. Walker have been campaigning together as a united front to keep Mr. Rybicki out of the select board. Is that a fair statement?
To keep Mr. Rybicki out of the select board.
Well, both of them, both parts, sorry. You guys running
Okay,
together?
so let's start the first one.
All right.
There are 2 open seats on the ballot today. Mr. Walker and myself are running to retain our seats. We both have accomplished a lot during our tenure. We each both offer different perspectives. So in 2011, the town had certified negative free cash. Last year, we just at a town meeting had $3.4 million in certified free cash. That's an about face, and that is directly upon Mr. Walker and I's coming together as a collaborative board, working together, moving the town of Newbury in the right direction. We both bring different perspectives to the board. I am very strong in the schools. I understand the school budgeting process. Mr. Walker is very strong in the environment and all things sea level rise, coastal resiliency. We're different, but both of us together have the one guiding document is what is best for the town of Newbury. And that's the unifying message. We want to keep the town moving forward and not going backwards to how Elaine Bird very clearly remembered where the town was many years ago.
Jack, do you think they're running a campaign together, or how do you feel about that? Or her statement at least.
I don't think it's disputable that they're not running together. They're open about it, and they're very, no, I don't think Jeff would deny it. I don't think Alicia would deny they're running together. I don't think it's necessarily against me. It's for them. And I just think it's the wrong application of what we got away from many years ago when we had 3 selectmen. 3 selectmen meant 2 was a majority. We went to 5 so that it would take 3 to make a majority. What they're declaring before you is we'll vote together, and all it takes is 1 more to make a majority. That's 2 being 1 voice, 2 votes being 1 voice couched to 1 other. We tried to get away from that to have 5 select boards with independent view. If they were truly independent, they would stand on their own record and wouldn't need to run together to cobble together mutual support. I submit to you that running independently, running on your own record, would be more in tune to what we tried to do in 2008 with the town administrator law. But I think they've turned it upside down. I don't think they should run together. I don't think anybody should run together. In fact, when JR and Damon ran as the young guns in 21, I thought that was abhorrent as well. It's not what we're trying to do here. We want 5 independent people running to come to an agreement at this table based on your input. And I don't see it happening enough. And we can talk on any agenda item that's on an agenda in the moment, anytime you show up. So please come. Thank you.
Jeff, you wanna say something?
You know, quickly, the intimation is that running together is 1 voice. Well, first of all, Alicia's a girl, I'm a guy. I drive a motorcycle, walk on the marsh and smoke cigars. She's very different than I am. And very rarely do we ever totally agree on much. But by the time the finance committee, the planning board, if they intervene, by the time Tracy Blaze, by the time all our boards and committees have worked hard to get something up to our board, and the board has good discussion, and creativity is used, often there is 1 voice. And I think in a lot of respects, and Jack, I want you to answer this if Dave thinks it's okay, 1 voice and being able to work together for your Board of Selectmen, especially when it's gonna go to town meeting and you guys are gonna look it over, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Jack, you were mentioned by name, so you have 60 seconds to respond to that.
I'm not sure the point, Jeff, but of course, after every board and committee, through their righteous application of open and moderated debate, would have allowed subject agendas to just be discussed before them, whether it's FinCom, whether it's Concom, or whether it's planning. It can be discussed. When it comes before the select board, we as the executive branch of this government, notwithstanding the town administrator, it's incumbent on us to revisit it on our behalf, because not necessarily did every citizen see it in the moment of those disciplines. You vote us as the executive ministers as part of that oversight to see and question what they're doing, because we didn't necessarily go to those meetings. We didn't attend the FinCom meeting, we didn't attend planning. To sit at the front and accept what they brought for us is trusting, but our job is to verify. Trust, but verify. And I can only assure you that whatever becomes before me, at least if I was so lucky to be elected, would be questioned. Not because it's personal, but because it's what you asked me to do by being here and electing me.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Jack, this question's for you. If elected, will you continue your Facebook page, Newbury Chatter?
As you all know, what Dave's referring to is I'm the editor and the sole primary content provider for the Newbury Chatter. It's a Facebook page predicated on wholesome, open discourse, and it's a public group, so you're all welcome, despite what you'll hear. My continuation of that, Dave, will be discussed, should I be so lucky enough to be elected. I'd imagine we'd have a robust conversation with town council and perhaps my colleagues. I can't stand before you right now and say that I would continue it. I don't think that's responsible. But I do think I would look into it all, and I do think that no matter what, it provides something that I would not abandon, that I would continue to do in some manner. And I think it provides a venue, a legitimate venue that your paper can't, frankly, in the moment at any given time. I believe my readership, nearly 2,000 people predicated on all being Newbury residents, provides for in-the-moment conversation that just can't happen here. And I don't know that that's right or wrong by the law right now, but I can assure you that whether it happens at the Chatter, it'll happen at the table I'm sitting at, because I'm going to invite you to come and bring your voice there. And if it's on the agenda, we'll talk about it in the moment. And I promise you, if it's not, we'll put it on the next one, and I'll be inviting you or picking you up to come so we can talk about it then. It's you that needs to drive this town. And I promise you that your voice so led. It's bottom up, then led, not top down, force fed. Thank you.
Alicia, do you want to comment?
Well, quite frankly, I'm a little disappointed that Mr. Rybicki hasn't done that research before he decided to run for the town. As a collaborative board, and that's what the select board is, you can't opine on a matter that's going to come before the board in advance of meeting as a collective body. So Mr. Rybicki may still hold his Chatter site, but he absolutely cannot opine on any matter that will come before us without violating the ethics law.
Jeff, you want to comment first?
I'm okay. I have never attended Jack's site, and I'm okay with this. How's that?
So, Jack, go ahead.
I submit to you that due diligence would lead me to the proper and legitimate conclusion. The idea that I haven't because I'm not elected yet is, I think, a little bit dubious, but I assure you that I would only operate under the auspices of the law. I submit to you as a historian, Boss Gilly in Newburyport ran a paper called The Asbestos because it was too hot to handle. And he used it, and he broadcast that, and he kept it during his multiple terms as mayor. I don't know where it stands. I think it's going to be an exciting point, frankly, because me saying something on the Chatter isn't discussion. It would be those who come to comment on it that would seem to me that would be the violation. So it'll be interesting as Lisa Mead and possibly the state weighs in on it. But I can assure you I'll be compliant whatever that legal ruling is. And I would find an appropriate administrator to continue the Chatter in that manner as well, just to keep that voice going under every circumstance. Thank you.
Any other comments on this, or?
Well, you absolutely cannot opine on a matter that's going to come before us. That's
I didn't know you were a lawyer.
straight violation.
We'll see.
All right, so we're going to move to questions that you guys can ask each other. So, Alicia, You're first. You can ask someone a question.
Can I go last?
No, I think you first.
Okay, so I would like to ask Mr. Rybicki a question.
Can you guys, I can hear it.
Mr. Rybicki, you familiar with this document?
I wrote it, thank you.
Okay.
Glad you did read it too.
Okay, thank you. So in this document, this is Mr. Rybicki's platform for running for the select board in the town of Newbury. He has two bulleted items. The second bulleted item is the one I'd like to ask the question on it. So he.
Keep it brief, okay?
Yeah, he's
It's-
advocating for across-the-board administrative level budget funding. I would like to know, how do you propose to level fund our budget, in the face of, school committee votes, in the face of collective bargaining agreements, in the face of insurance increases, in cost of living increases? How do you propose that you level fund the budget?
Half of our budget is Triton, and half of our budget is out of our control. We manage half of a budget. Of that budget, I submit to you, we can honor our collective bargaining, labor, and contractual obligations. But at the same time, there's always in the budget mobile items, just like there is at our homes. We have items that we can't take from, we have items that we're gonna have to take from because there's a cost that's come to us that we need to sacrifice for. Level funding to me means you go back to those department heads and say, can you operate with a zero going forward budget for your operations? I don't think it's an unreasonable request. I don't think it's at all out of line. Frankly, we've been going up our town has been budgeting at a plus 5% rate every year for the last 5 years in a 2.5% world. I think that calls for questioning as well.
Jack, do you want to ask a question?
Well, I say to either Jeff.
Can he respond?
Do you want to respond to that, Jeff? Go ahead, sure.
Just real quickly.
Go ahead.
As a guy that was around in 2011, what we've accomplished would never and could never be accomplished with level funding. I mean, level funding at this day and time could be a reality if we have expenses that are, it could be a social experiment. It could happen with some of the costs we're gonna be hit with, depending on what the state does with Whittier, depending on what we see for the Triton roofs and other things that come to our town. Certainly, having the solid footing with a low tax rate and high reserves that we have now, we're ahead of the game. Because I gotta tell you, real quickly, sorry, Dave, when we met in that fire station years ago, we had a $148,000 deficit, we couldn't pay the bills, we were looking for a $900,000 override back then. And that's when we hired Tracy Boyce.
Jack, you want to ask a question now?
Oh, Jack, sorry.
All good. Open, moderated dialogue, all good. Again, I ended the last statement with that we're budgeting now at 5% and have been continuously for multiple years in a 2.5% world. I think that's unsustainable. I don't know, frankly, I'm not in their seats, I don't have privy to the information they have, I don't have the documentations that they have, that we are gonna have fiscal challenges in front of.
Jack, is this a question or is this, what do you?
No,
I'd like you to.
Dave, no, you're on then, Dave, go.
I'd like you to, no, it's your turn to ask a question.
No, I think their record stands for itself, and I don't have anything to add. I'm good, thank you.
All right. Jeff, would you like to ask a question of someone?
Geez, I should ask Jack a question, let me think. Or Alicia, I suppose. I will say this. Jack, how are you gonna handle, and this is not mean-spirited, how are you gonna handle when I imagine a lot of the presuppositions that you have in your mind, if you were to get elected, how are you gonna handle the idea that those could all be wrong? I say that because I watched JR over the years. I can remember when he ran, I think he called me a crook, you know. When he became part of the board, he saw it was well-managed, and most of the things he thought about, how will you handle that?
I think I've stated this earlier, frankly, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I think we have great pieces in place. I think that there's nothing wrong with evolution to revolution. I respect everything that's occurred to date, and talking 14 years ago is wonderful and all, but we need to move forward from that. What that means is that we all need to understand that Whittier and education at Triton, NES needs, library needs are all forthcoming. How we're gonna handle them on a day-to-day basis is something we'll all come to an agreement on. I submit to you, I don't have a problem working with anyone. My job has always been, you work with the assets at hand, find the strengths and work to them. The idea that it would come from the floor that it's otherwise, I think is nonsense. I think anyone that's ever met me or done business with me would find that I'm infinitely reachable and willing to apologize when I'm wrong, despite what you may hear otherwise, and I pride myself on that. Thank you.
Alicia, you want to comment, or you good?
Well,
About what Jeff's talking about.
I hope to go back to the operating budget at
Well,
some point. At some point.
There's a lot of
because
questions I want to get
yeah,
to a
all
lot of
right.
them.
No,
I think you can do that tomorrow. So this is a question for everyone. Jeff, what are your thoughts on the Pink House? And do you believe the refuge is the villain?
Great question, Dave. For anyone of you that know me, I have worked with the refuge in the marsh for the last 25 years. Do I think the refuge is right on this one? I'll go right to the meat of the thought. No. I think the Pink House could definitely stand in its place and be a useful part of our tax base. I think the fact of building a bird platform there and having congestion and everything else that would go along with it is probably not that great of an idea when we have so many miles just down the street that people can ride to and go to North Pool and all the other assets. I do not think they're a villain. They do by far some really advantageous things for nature. So I hope I've answered that question.
Jack, same question to you.
I salute the Pink House's private endeavors to save that house. I think it is an incredible resource. That the federal government promised something and didn't deliver on, I think is not untrodden ground in all our worlds, sad as it is. That the people that led by Rochelle Joseph and her entire crew, I think it's an incredible display of how the people can try to needle move. I think it's great example for all of us in following through what you believe in, win or lose, they're all in. And I support the private effort to undertake that, to take on the government. And frankly, as long as our direct public funds aren't involved, I would salute and support their continued public volunteer effort to make something they believe in happen. I would never, ever do anything but applaud citizen engagement under any circumstance, Dave.
Same question to you, Alicia.
I penned a letter with the select board, the majority of the select board anyways, it wasn't unanimous, submitted to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I think the Pink House should remain there, and I think it would be returned to the tax base and allow a family. Housing is a crisis. We have a housing crisis in Massachusetts, and that is one home that is not going to be utilized as a home. I don't think the refuge is a villain in this. I just think that their mission could be tweaked a little bit to allow the Pink House there to come back on the tax rolls for the town of Newbury.
Anybody else want to chime in with any thoughts, or all good? Okay, that was easy. All right.
We love the pink house.
Well, I didn't think anyone would say, no pink house. Didn't think that was gonna happen. That's why I searched it. Jack, can you please share your views on the recently completed Plum Island public bathroom project?
I was disappointed I wasn't asked for first flush, Dave, frankly. Again, a challenging project, a known need that took multiple votes to come to a conclusion that's still contested. There was a great design to happen in the middle of the parking lot at Center Island, where we wouldn't have had to purchase the land we did. We went in another direction. That it exists now and will be utilized, I tell you that I accept the will of the people. If this is the way it went, we accept it. We're gonna embrace it, we're gonna protect it, we're gonna do our best to make sure it stays a functional asset to this community. I believe it's just an example of needing to come together better in order to not have a 6-year project come out of a need known for so long. And if you ask me, how would you do it, Jack? I can't say yet because I wasn't in charge then. I know that there were 4 votes related to it. I know that we came to consternation to get here. And I say that, again, the will of the people said we're gonna have it. The will of the people is that we'll take care of it. The will of the people is that we'll always make sure that it's a safe place for our kids and our citizens and the tourists that choose to use it. So I accept that wholeheartedly, and I would look forward to second flush, Dave. Thank you.
Second flush. Okay, Alicia, you want to comment on that? Or what's your thoughts? Or I shouldn't say comment on that. Could you answer the question?
Can you read it again?
Sure. Can you please share your views on the recently completed Plum Island public bathroom project?
The bathhouse was 6 years coming. Mr. Rybicki, it says that he would get behind the votes, but there was many votes, and he fought them every step of the way. He actually led the charge. So the bathhouse is, if you have an opportunity to see it, the DPW did a phenomenal job. It has, I know Elaine had questions about how it was gonna get funded. The porta potties that were formerly located on Center Island are no longer going to be there. No more porta potties. That line item in the Board of Health budget will go to the cleaning of the bathhouse, and the DPW will clean it. It's gonna be open 7 to 7, from Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend, and then it will be open on weekends through the end of October. We will take an opportunity at the end of the year to look at that and see how that schedule works. We're gonna have to work out a few tweaks. But it's a resource that has not been there prior, and it's a much-needed resource on the island. And I am so happy that there's nothing obstructing that beautiful view, and the porta potties are gone, and all the stuff that would come out of there and fly down the beach and litter our beautiful beaches is gone as well.
So Jeff, I'll give you a chance to answer the question as well, but Jack was mentioned by name, so you have 60 seconds if you want to respond to Alicia's comment.
I take umbrage at the notion that I fought it all along the way. What I thought was the location and the expenditures necessary to bring that building to where it is. It cost us nearly $600,000 to do that, where more prudent spending could have been a proper, which was designed, a very nice lifeguard station, a very nice bathroom, that was pushed aside for the facility we put across the street. The notion we needed a bathroom was never contested by myself. What I contested was the location, the safety, the nature, and the expenditures of it. So, public bathrooms on Plum Island, yes. Location, then, no. Location now, it's accepted. So I again say to you all, I accept the will of the people. Where it is where we'll continue to respect it. That it could have been someplace else is only the point I ever made then as well as now. Thank you.
Jeff, do you want me to repeat the question for you, or?
No, I'm good. No one should spend more money than is needed, but I will remark to the fact that The quality of the building, thanks to the DPW and others involved, is spectacular. And I'm not gonna say what other buildings cost of its nature, but Salisbury and Hampton, all up and down our coast, have a lot of the same facilities. And ours didn't cost anywhere near that much. The maintenance of the building, I think Salisbury and Hampton and aforementioned places seem to be able to maintain theirs. I know we have Manta Field, they maintain the facilities when they're open, and people are good and careful, and I hope the same exists on Plum Island. So, thank you.
So Jack, I have a follow-up question for you. The way the town rolled out the news about the grand opening of the bathrooms, did that irk you in any way, or do you feel like, back to what I said about them, your opponents campaigning together, did that
I think that's
connect the dots for you or not?
I don't know if that's for here, Dave. I think that's coffee table conversation. You're asking me how I feel about
Yeah,
that.
I am, but
But
that's why I'm definitely asking you how you feel.
how they presented it, they're in charge. It's their authority to do. And I make mention that we're all thrilled that it's open.
I don't think, but I think you mentioned in your Newbury chatter that you weren't thrilled with that.
Well, I appreciate you read it and pay attention, Dave.
Can you answer the
know?
question though? Did you
That's awesome, you know?
not write that in your Newbury chatter?
I will be mentioning that Dave's pumping up my chatter. Thank you very much.
No,
No, it doesn't irk me. It was just, it seemed an odd bit of timing to have quite a ceremony where in fact you couldn't take the first flush. That it was done 3 weeks in advance of the opening day, ahead of the electoral process. It just seemed to be strange timing. That they want to celebrate a win is wonderful, and that it could have been done at any time, I accept. That they chose to do it at this time ahead of where we sit now or Tuesday is all that I pointed out for all to read.
Yeah.
And that it's still not open, for the record.
Alicia, do you want to comment on that, or you good with bathrooms?
I'm good with bathrooms, but that's a valuable resource. It was a long time coming. Selectman Walker and I were the only ones on the board that are left on the board that had anything to do with that. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the island. I think it's a jewel. That's it.
Jeff, do you want to say anything else, or you good?
I think Plum Island definitely needed bathrooms, and I'm proud of the project. I do want people to remember we're a complex town. And we talk about, and even Byfield has its own zip code, but we talk about the 3 boroughs. Remember, we are one town. And we strive in these days and times of, state and federal mandates and all the things we have on the horizon facing us. Remember, cooperation and collaboration and good government is very important for this town to succeed. We're only about 7,000 people.
All right. So let's move on. Done bathrooms enough. I think this is a submitted question. Please rank the 3 most important capital planning projects facing Newbury in the next 3 years. I believe, Alicia, you go first on that one.
Capital planning projects that have been identified, or can you?
That is a good question. The question was capital planning projects facing Newbury. So I guess that means that it's already known.
Okay, Whittier could be a project that is gonna be taken over by the Commonwealth. It's my hope that that's the way that one goes. Triton, something has to be done at the Triton Regional School District, with their aging facilities. That may be roofs and windows, floors, it may be a whole new rebuild, that remains to be seen. We're sitting in rented space right now we're the only community in the Commonwealth that doesn't have a seat of government, that the people own. That's it, we rent that space. I think as far as municipal buildings go, the Council on Aging, they're also in rented space. A solution needs to be found out for them. And I do believe that there's our Morgan Ave Fire Station. needs some work. We passed some money at town meeting to begin addressing that. We rent the Byfield Firehouse, we lease that, so the town doesn't own that one. Perhaps that might be something that we can look at and, in the future, and I think I just rattled off all of our capital.
Good rattling, good. Jeff, you're next.
I think Alicia hit upon a lot of the things, and I probably could dredge down and try to think of others, but for me, if you guys are aware of what I do, which is work on the Great Marsh and try to protect it because it protects our mainland and Plum Island from storm events, I think municipal planning is something that we forget often in this town. And I can't stress to you, if you see a river or you can see the marsh, you know, you got a good chance of being flooded coming up in the next decade. So for me, some of the capital planning projects that would be evolved around the vulnerability planning that our planning board and other groups are doing is still something to be thought about, meaning raising roads maybe and all the other things that go to that point, so.
Jack, do you want me to repeat the question or you got it?
I'm still good, thank you, Dave. There's capital concerns in this Newbury capital projects. The two capital concerns we all are weighing is Whittier and Triton. And that's, as much as it's in our control, it's sort of out of our control. We're gonna have to keep our fingers on the pulse of that and follow it and see how it goes, and accept the fact that usually those are overrides outright. You know, how we would fund them through the town is, you know, will come to be discussed. To your question directly, Dave, you asked the Newbury capital planning concerns. I think we have the Newbury Elementary School, the fire station, and the library and COA. I think Newbury Elementary School for our public education is where our taxpayer dollar is both best served. I think we buy our houses based on the education system in the schools we have. I think the necessary capital investments directly for Newbury taxpayers now is at NES. And what we gotta do to bring that, keep that in compliance, be it the HVAC system, be it the boiler system, be it paint, flagpoles, it doesn't matter what it is. That should come to our forefront. We own that building, that's our responsibility. The fire station at Morgan and High is challenged. We all recognize that. And I think it needs to be a little bit drilled deeper as how we prioritize that. The fact that we're leasing the building we're in now, there's a time to lease and a time to buy. I think we found that in our world, cars sometimes, capital investments. I think right now, the deal we had here prior to the adding on to this lease would have served us well.
Okay, any follow-ups to that? Anyone say anything else? No?
Can I comment, Dave?
Well, you just commented, didn't you? So let's move on. What time is it? One or two more questions, then we'll do closing statements. So last summer, there was plenty of noise was made regarding whether the town should set a 7 p.m. curfew for live music at the Sunset Club. The decision was ridiculed by many, including business owners. Do you all agree that the select board's ruling was just or was appropriate? Can you explain why? Jeff, you go first on that one.
Was it 7 or 8?
It was 7, according to my reporting to the Daily News. I think someone wanted 8, and then you guys decided on 7. Is that correct, Alicia? That sounds right.
I think that sounds right.
Where do we stand now?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a year. It's been almost a year since then.
Didn't we raise that at our last meeting? Can anyone remember? No?
We did.
I think we had a lot of input. I think it was a hard decision. And I think depending on how they have done it, and I would certainly, and neighbors could get mad at me, but if everything has gone along in what is expected, I think we have a new restaurant opening, and we have certain things that people on Plum Island want and expect, which is, you know, to be able to enjoy their homes. Then I think there'll always be a give and take. I would entertain maybe making it longer and then fight the fight if they've done a good job. So, but I think things like that never are meant to be cast in stone and not be able to be changed.
Jack,
I wasn't involved in the decision.
how do you feel about it? Do you think it was appropriate?
I'd only say, in regards to any decision made by the select board, it should be fair and uniform application of the law. And whatever time is out there, I think there's several restaurants out there that offer music. I would only suggest that if one is 7 o'clock, the other be 7 o'clock. If one is 8, the other is 8. I think right now there's a little 1 hour disconnect between a couple of them. And I think that just putting a fair and uniform time so that all the residents there can understand that they're impacted till X time and understanding that's where the music comes from and will end. I think that's an acceptable thing. I just think it's about fair and uniform, not one gets 8, one gets 7, another gets 6. I think it just needs to be established righteously, and then I think everyone would conform and come to an agreement that it's best for all. And if it wasn't, come back to the board and perhaps revisit it in another way. That's how I would address it.
Alicia?
What was unique about the Sunset Club is that it's outdoors, there's no indoors. So although Mr. Redmicky makes a very good point about, you know, having uniformity across all venues, the Sunset Club was a little bit different and unique based on its outdoor venue. We had significant residents show up at our meeting, again, concerned about being noise.
You mean a significant number, or a significant, it's like important residents? What do you mean?
We had significant feelings. So we had a
Okay.
couple of people come up to our select board meetings, again, made it known, although you'd think we don't have dialogue, we do if it's an agenda item. And they were very concerned about it. So that's why we decided 7 p.m. was a decent hour, and the board agreed. Selectwoman Matthews went out and she actually listened, and she filed a report, and she came back to the board that there was no really sound. So the next time we had a wedding that people requested a little bit later, we went with a little bit of a later time. It's going to be a give and take, kind of like the bathrooms. We'll do it, we'll see how it goes, and then we'll always come back and revisit it.
Okay. Any more comments about Sunset Club and noise? No?
Oh, the town hasn't received any complaints.
Well, that's a good
about it,
question.
so that's.
I'll ask one more question, then we'll do closing statements. I'd like each of you to come up with an example of a problem or an issue that the town came together and solved or addressed. I forget who I started. I think Jeff, you get this one first.
I mean, old, new, or in between.
I guess it's, you can go back to the Stone Age if you want to, whatever you want.
I mean, I'm sorry to go back to the 2011 era, but it was something that the town should never forget and strive like heck not to ever have it occur again. But we've done a lot of things. I don't think Manta Field was an easy one. I think we worked hard to be able to solve some of the complications there. I mean, we've had a lot of tremendous issues in our town that have taken collaboration for our town to stand behind our residents, to almost fight the over-intentions of state and federal mandates when Plum Island protected its own houses. That's unheard of. So, you know, town of Newbury is quite a town, and I hope it always continues to be.
Jack?
Well, this past year, Newbury Town Day, I was a volunteer participant. I ran the dunk tank, which Dave got wet on. It was a wonderful event. We raised over $500 for the Newbury Food Pantry. I also coordinated the drive-in theater component that we had at Central Street. I say to you, it took a lot of coordination, a lot of reach out, multiple boards and committees, meetings, appeared before this board for permission. I show to you, I know how to reach out, I know where to reach out. Lenny Mira was part of that, Dave was part of that, a former selectman was part of that, and today's selectman was part of that event. And of course I went in, no problems. I'd go in again for you. So I say to you that I've demonstrably reached out, and in years past I've volunteered, I've been at NES, I've been a chaperone on field trips, I've been a classroom volunteer, I've worked with Christopher Farmer, I've worked with Brian Forget. I can only assure you that if given responsibility, you'll be part of the solution and not the result of the problem. Our success in this town is predicated on us paying our bills, not necessarily the management of that money as well. We've lived through the greatest economic times in the country's history, and it's a reflection of us as much as them. And that's what I'd celebrate as much as anything today. Thank you.
Alicia?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. I'd like each of you to come up with an example of a problem or issue that the town came together to solve or address.
Well, there's a couple that come to my mind. The first one is 2008, when we needed to change our form of government. Newbury was highly regulated. We were highly oversight. The dump was capped. People of the town of Newbury came together and really made the tough decisions to change our form of government and move the town forward. Our police station, our police department, they lived in filth, for lack of a better word. There were sewer flies in there. That building should have been condemned, and it wasn't condemned. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health came up, and the reason why they wouldn't condemn it is because it was a police station, and there was no place else to go. The police station that's currently built, that was built by the Municipal Building Committee that served this town extremely well. I'm very proud of that. I think that's it.
Okay.
That I can think of off the top of my head.
Anybody else want to comment about this question at all, or? No? Good, all right. Well, we're gonna do closing statements now, and so Jeff, you go first on that?
I didn't allude to it earlier, and I think people should realize that I was pretty well educated. I went to Tilton Academy because I needed to, and I went to Clark University for a BA, and I have a Master's of Education from Springfield College. And I think in closing, that we are really kind of at a crossroads in our town, and good leadership is extremely important. And I allude to the fact that some of the expenses that are gonna be engendered by the capital needs, depending especially where the state goes with Whittier, and once again, where Triton is able to feed into the rebuild program or not, are gonna be daunting. And educational costs, because of all the things that we know, not only are teachers getting smarter with their column raises and COLA and everything else, but, you know, Triton's going out for a school bus new contract. It's not gonna be cheap, so let alone all the other expenses that we have through the unions and everything else within our town. Good leadership is extremely important, and I ask for your vote on May 14th. Thank you.
Okay, Jack, you're up.
Mr. Moderator, we have
Yeah.
a bit of a technical issue. May I add 10 seconds for the remaining candidates for fairness?
Sure.
Thank you.
If you're added to me, I'm okay.
Yes, you had the extra 10
I'm good,
seconds,
thanks.
so.
You
Go ahead.
you could have had to repeat it.
Go ahead, go ahead.
All right, Jack, you're up.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks, Dave, for hosting. What Jeff and what we all recognize coming forward is serious fiscal challenge. Whittier, Triton, NES, Fire Station, COA here. It's a lot of money. And despite our success, it's gonna be a very big challenge to decide what we do and how we address it. But I'm game. But I'm game for finding out how we can do it most prudently, how we can do it with less burden to our children or to our public safety people, and to do it in good conscience so that we all, going forward, can understand and respect ourselves in 10 years that the decisions we made now are good. Because these are legacy decisions. We won't be here for most of us here when they're paid off. You know, these are 30-year, 35-year investments, so we're passing them along. These are legacy decisions, and I think that it's really incumbent for us to go through them slow, meticulously, and with great respect, and I promise you all of that if given the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, Alicia, you got the last word.
All of the decisions that the town have made are important, and quite frankly, I'm proud. I'm proud of the direction that the board has gone into, while I have been on it. So the 2008 town meeting decision to change our form of government triggered new requirements, including hiring a professional to manage our town and its $24 million budget. This has proven to be incredibly positive outcome for Newbury. Since I've been on the board, we have dramatically upgraded our roads, our public safety infrastructure, both recreational and council on aging opportunities. We have created a modern approach to all aspects of town governance, including transparency, and we have done this all while keeping our tax rate the lowest in Essex County. That's big. Since taking office, I have worked collaboratively with a strong board to turn Newbury around, and to bring integrity to this office. Over the years, I have worked with several different select board members, and we have not always agreed on policy or direction. That being said, I feel we have always been respectful of each other, assumed the best of intentions, and always put the town first. I'm extremely proud of what we have accomplished, and I cherish the character of our town, so I seek your vote. Thank you.
All right. So that about wraps it up. I'd like to thank Cindy Courier from the Council on Aging, our timekeeper, and all the candidates for running for office and caring deeply about Newbury. I'm sure you'll go out and vote on May 14th. And I said 14th. Every vote counts. Thank you and take care. Goodbye.